So, welcome to all our panelists today. Thank you so much for being here and thank you for being a part of this webinar on decoding the brand quotient. I'm going to start this with introducing all our panelists. I'm sharing a presentation. Is it visible?
Yeah. Can't see it.
There you go. So, my name is Falguni Padode. I'm the co-founder of the ASAP Info Global Group. We're into construction, infrastructure, and engineering. And we've got a 360 degrees overview of the market. We are 30 years into construction and infrastructure, 130 years of intelligence in textiles, and 50 plus years in engineering. Our focus remains on delivering business intelligence for profitable growth. We deliver over 100,000 copies. Introducing our panelists, Dr. Sandeep Goyal is the Managing Director at Rediffusion. He's our moderator today. He's a veteran of advertising and media with over 3 decades of experience. He's also the owner-promoter of the Moge Group and founder chairman and former JV partner of Dentsu in India and in the Middle East. He's led iconic brands like Airtel, Maruti Suzuki, leadership roles at Z and Rediffusion. He's a noted author, columnist, and industry thought leader. Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Our panelists today, introducing Jyoti Kumar Bansal from Tata. She's Chief Brand and Communications at Tata. She's a seasoned brand leader with 31 years across global advertising networks. At Tata, she drives impactful sustainability-led campaigns, strengthening brand leadership. Formerly CEO of PhD India, she built a $400 million plus agency, winning Cannes Lions, with deep expertise in media, technology, and consumer-centric transformation. Welcome, Jyoti.
Thank you. Hi.
Welcoming Amer Jaleel, he's co-founder of Curativity. He brings a powerful creative perspective to this discussion. He's one of India's most respected creative leaders, former chairman and group chief creative officer at Lintas. He spent over 2 decades shaping iconic brands and leading integrated capabilities across advertising, design, digital, and content. And he's known for his disruptive thinking and sharp creative leadership. Welcome.
Thank you.
Ramkrishna Nayak is CMO at Kansai Nerolac Paints. He brings over 26 years of experience across FMCG, healthcare, and industrial sectors. He brings deep expertise in P&L ownership, brand building, and scaling businesses across B2C and B2B environments, including leadership roles at JSW Steel. Welcome, Ram.
Thank you. Thank you for me.
A quick look at ASAP. Every month, we deliver over 100,000 copies across 800 cities and engage with over 1.5 million web users. We have about 3 million touch points, and we have 50 plus verified sector updates daily. Our ecosystem includes CXOs, 10,000 delegates, 600 plus exhibitors, and we track over 50,000 opportunities and over 1 million subcontractors. We're a fully integrated ecosystem. We bring together 6 publications, 8 events, 4 expos, and 8 industry awards. It's supported by our SaaS platform, Impact, along with advisory services and policy advocacy initiatives. At the core of this ecosystem is Construction World, conceptualized 30 years ago when the construction sector itself was not yet mainstream. Today, it's India's largest circulated and most trusted construction intelligence platform. Our audience is influential and decision-driven. We have over 5.6 million users with a newsletter base of 175,000. The platform delivers a monthly readership of over 100,000 and a digital presence of 1.6 crore unique visitors. The brands, the reach, the connect, where we transact, and how it transforms into your sales pipeline. We've been doing a story called India's Most Admired Construction Brands. It started 5 years ago. It is a survey which we do amongst our thousands of industry stakeholders. This year, we've put together a list of 200 companies which have now gone to vote. This list will be, the vote will be finalized in another month. This story, this webinar, the webinar will be online. The story will be in the July edition of Construction World. And the winners of the survey, the companies that make it to the admired brand list, will be awarded at the event that we hold at Geo on the 8th of July. The awards are over 11 categories in construction and infrastructure. This webinar is going to be promoted on YouTube, on our YouTube channel and all our social media handles. Like I said, we do multiple events, one of which related is on construction technology. It's in August, and it's a 2-day expo on Contech and PropTech, cutting edge products and solutions. And our Architect and Builder Awards, this year will be our 21st edition. It is the only event of its kind which hosts architects and builders on one platform and recognizes achievements as well on a common platform. Thank you so much.
Yes, Falguni, ready to start.
Thank you. Handing over the discussion to Dr. Goyal.
Thank you, Falguni. I've been part of that, I think, that list of best brands or whatever, some 4-5 years ago, I remember.
Yes.
We did that session at Four Seasons, if I
Yes,
remember.
we did an event.
Yes. So thank you very much. Thank you for organizing this session, and a big thank you to Jyoti, to Amer, to Ram for joining us on this discussion.
Thank you for inviting.
It's always good to have, panelists who are friends. So, I mean, I've known all three of you for a very, very long time. So it's a delight to be moderating this session. Except that I get a little worried and worked up when you have big words like brand quotient and whatever. Admiration seemed a little simpler to me. But in the very many years of being in advertising, the first time I really kind of got exposed to what exactly is brand admiration came from my ex-boss, Diwan Arun Nanda, and he said something really interesting, and that I am going to use to really trigger this conversation. So, when he set up Rediffusion, the company I work for now, way back in 1973, he wrote that Rediffusion will create advertising that becomes famous, part of the language, the conversations, and the culture of the people. Right? So, to me, it looked like something fairly, heavy duty and so on and so forth. But over the years, I've come to believe that a brand quotient really depends on, the fact whether your brand and its communication has actually entered the conversations of people. So all the brands we talk about and ones which have become famous is primarily because brands have entered the day-to-day conversation of people. So I'm going to use that as a trigger to actually kick off this discussion. And first and foremost, Amer, because you are a creative genius here, to I'm going to ask you really that are brands admired genuinely, and are they really respected, so to say, by the man on the street? Or is it just us in the advertising business that we creatively amplify them and make them bigger and perhaps stronger and more admired than they actually are?
Thanks, Sandeep. Uh, See, I would like to answer with with my alma mater in the context of this question. Lintas. Most of my education in advertising happened at Lintas. I was creative person before Lintas. Lintas made me an advertising person. And I want to say that before Lintas, if I would ever mention a brand name in my circle, among my family, my friends, or any other person, they would look blankly at me and like, what are you talking about? And then I joined Lintas, and then with I used to be very conscious of saying the word Lintas because I had not got a great reaction for any other brand or of advertise agency ever. And then when I said Lintas, they sat up in that chair, they said Lintas. Oh, so that that I think proves what a great brand is, right? And I feel that great brand is not only known by what it does, but it is also known by how it does it, right? Uh, if Alec had not incepted himself into the brand, I don't think Lintas would have got so well known. If Piyush has not incepted himself into Ogilvy, I don't think Ogilvy would have become what it became in India. So, admiration, I think, comes from the work, but it also comes with a genuine effort from people and from the brand to project itself. The brand needs to project itself and needs to put itself out there. So, yes, it is genuinely admired, but it is also the effort of some people or the people who protect the brand or the most that they put the brand out there in a particular way so that it gets admired. So, it's the stories around the brands that make it admired and not just exactly what the brand does.
That's a very interesting perspective, though I may have a different point of view that when you bring in an Alec into Lintas and then you bring in a Piyush into an Ogilvy and then they go away, do they leave the brand empty? But we'll get into that part of the discussion somewhat later.
Sure, sure.
I'm going to move on to Jyoti. Jyoti, you've been both in advertising and now you work for a very, very large utility company. In your kind of business, the question that I'm going to ask you is what is it that builds brand admiration uh, when you actually don't see the product? How do you, I mean, I take it for granted. If there's power coming into my house, well, it is coming into my house. Nothing much that can be done about it. So, in a context of that kind of space, how do you really build brand admiration uh, on products which are very familiar, used day to day, and products we don't really think about too much?
Yeah. So, Sandeep, I think you've asked a very interesting aspect to the question, which is if you don't see the brand, how is it that you still build brand admiration? And you've been associated with both Tata and Tata Power for long. So, internally we have this thing about the invisible goodness and how we are invisible till the electricity goes off. And then all hell breaks loose in the customer's life, and then you and I have dealt with it, right? But in this kind of a scenario, what really matters from a brand perspective is how is it that we are coming across to the customer in each and every interaction that they have and also that they don't have with us. So when you don't see us, you're not really having an interaction, but the fact that I'm there and I'm making your life easy is something that is also building that brand value somewhere in your mind. But more important, I think, is how do we come across in every little interaction that customers do have with us, and what is the kind of authenticity with which we come across. If there is a problem, if there is a concern that the consumer has, how is it that I'm building a connection with them? So these, actually every touch point then becomes so much more important than I think it does in brands which are very visible. And at the end of it, the consumers react to us, not, I think, in terms of what we say to them, but what they really experience in those moments which matter to them. Yeah. So that's what I think really matters in brands like ours, where you don't see as much. And so that's one part, right? The other part is we also, as an organization, are now getting into products and services which are visible. So, like the rooftop solar product, for example, you can actually see it. Somebody comes to your house, somebody installs the solar panels. They talk to you, they go away. You have some sort of an after sales service requirement sometime. So there, I think we start to behave very much like a durable or a service brand, because the service quality, delivery, and expectation is what then really comes to the forefront. And when I have a delightful experience each time I interact with the brand, that's when the admiration starts to build over a period of time.
Well, that's a lot of perspective, and I'm sure over the next hour or so we'll get to discuss some of those. Which brings me to Ram. Ram runs the marketing at a company where I first started working 42 years ago, post business school. So I have a very, very special relationship there. And that's why, Ram, I'm going to ask you, I haven't still figured it out, 40 years later. In a category like paint, is it product performance? Is it dealer trust? Or is it consumer recall that you would best call what we are discussing in terms of brand admiration? You are on mute. Yeah.
I think paints as a category is slightly better off than distribution of power, what Jyoti mentioned. We are equally undifferentiated. You take the packaging out of the paints, then all paints look similar, doesn't it? And everyone has the same story on product performance to talk about. So essentially, product performance is not a builder of differentiation in our category. What becomes more important is the availability, the accessibility to your product, and just like Jyoti mentioned, in categories which are undifferentiated, the experience in the consumer decision journey becomes extremely more important. So for us, it is how does a consumer select colors? What is the access to the colors? How does it come across to the influencers? Because in paints, the user and the payer are actually two different people. So while the consumer pays for it, the paint is actually used by the painter or the contractor. So what is his recommendation? So essentially, in a category where people dip in once in 4 5 years and also undifferentiated, the surround elements actually become more important than the product itself. So that's where it lies. So product performance, while it's important, yeah, because it has to be, it's an hygiene actually, not a differentiator. But dealer trust, what does the consumer feel about it? How does he perceive the brand? What's the purpose that he sees in the brand? And what role the brand plays in his life, and how nicely integrated it is into him in terms of experiences, actually matter a lot and more than what he feels about. And every decision journey is new. He starts painting 5 years later, he starts with a new decision journey. So it starts all over again. So that's the opportunity for brands.
Ram, that's a very interesting perspective. So before I go back to the other panelists, I'm just going to ask you a question linked to what you said, which is that paints actually sit between both aspiration on one side and specification on the other. Now, given that, how do you balance the emotional branding with functional credibility? So your competitor, for example, talks about, mere wala green or mere wala red or whatever, या हर घर ये कहता है कि इसमें कौन रहता है. So in a situation like that, is it the emotional connect that is more important than the functional specificity which we always discussed, which is what leads all your, architects, your contractors, your painters, and so on and so forth. So what is it that is really the trigger to, consumer admiration or even the trade admiration, so to say?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, Dr. Goyal, and it depends a lot on how your paint actually goes into the market. And let me, split it into two parts. If you're selling to a retail consumer and a consumer is taking a decision on purchase, of course, the emotional quotient becomes far more important because, as I mentioned, the product differentiation is far lesser. So, authentic brand storytelling, the emotional bond that he has. And what he believes the paint will actually protect and beautify his home, that storytelling becomes extremely important. So when you're consumer market, it becomes very important. But when you come to a B2B kind of scenario, which is also becoming important in a paint industry, then it becomes about functional credibility. B2B selling is all about, we, as we say, giving the customer a very strong reason to buy, and so that he can convince his boss. That's B2B, right? Because B2B, there is always a manager who questions, why did you buy this? But a consumer doesn't have to actually, explain it to anyone. He only explains to himself. So essentially, on a large portion of the market, which is B2C, emotional storytelling takes a override over, functional credibility, if I have to say. But B2B, it's purely functional. No emotional storytelling there.
B2B is more L1. So everything that is L1, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
not
Anything
L1.
else
It's
doesn't
not,
really
it's,
matter.
yeah, not the price per se, but the value probably that you give to a
Yeah,
customer.
but Jyoti, back to what you were discussing. I want to ask you two related questions. I mean, one, in the utility part of your business, price is largely controlled by the regulator. So you can't suddenly wake up and say, I make superior electricity, therefore I will charge more. But now that you are now reasonably large players in B2C business with the solar rooftop, the question I want you to kind of focus on is brand building much more difficult in your kind of business, especially given that the utility background has kind of put you more like the furniture in the house?
So, brand building, Sandeep, I think in the infrastructure, utility kind of brands has always been more difficult than it has been, I think, in the FMCG space, because those brands really touch our lives far more often than I think infra and utility brands do. So, like Ram was saying, paint I will buy once and then forget for maybe 3 to 5 years. Electricity, of course, comes into the house, but till it goes away, we don't remember. And in our case, for example, if I take the rooftop solar product, which is one of our largest consumer-facing product portfolios, we ourselves say that you buy a Tata Power solar roof and then forget about us for 25 years. That's the promise that we've been trying to build on. And if you're going to forget us for the next 25 years, then that means I have only that much uh, that much ability to sort of connect with you and build the brand. And interestingly, the process of buying is very long. It can vary from a minimum of 2 months and sometimes go up to 6 months, because of the way the category is, and because it's a nascent sort of category, and there are lot of myths and misapprehensions and misconceptions about the brand. So all of this actually makes it a lot more difficult to build the brand. But I will go back and say that the principles of how we build the brand and how to build hired brand don't really change, because end of the day, any brand exists in my life for a role, right? And if that role is understood well by us both as creative people and as brand marketeers, and if we are able to create that connect with their heart and the values, and of course the functional is the underlying base, uh, then I think it is probably not as difficult as a lot of people think it is. And you've been doing this with us for a while. So our simplest and most effective communication has always been the one where we have gone beyond the functional to really tug at the hearts of our consumers. I think that doesn't change. And somewhere, if that lever is caught by us properly, I think it is as easy or as difficult it is compared to any other category.
Tata in Tata Power gives you a
Sorry?
huge, the Tata in Tata Power, I must say, gives you a huge advantage.
Oh, yes, it does. It does.
Yeah,
Definitely it does. And it also places a huge responsibility, Amer, because
absolutely.
every decision that I take or my team takes, we are cognizant not only of the brand Tata Power that we are building and impacting, but also what it ladders up to from a Tata perspective.
So question I have for you is, you've been talking about all this stuff which is visible, not visible, and so on and so forth. And in my experience of many years of also selling paint, I figured, while we might talk about consumer thing, but all products are getting more and more complicated, especially industrial products. So, from your experience, do you think that in advertising we are overcomplicating the communication, or is it that we are simplifying value? I mean, where do you think advertising is really taking most brands like Jyoti's or Ram's?
I think, media is really the culprit. Uh, what has happened is media has, got fragmented to such an extent that it's not possible for any brand to speak, at with one message everywhere. So we have split, what we call the whole communication pipeline into this consumer journey. And we are now, forced to talk in a certain way. So at the top of the consumer sort of journey, where you speaking to everybody, you speak in a certain way. Then you come below, then you speak in a certain way. Then you come down, absolutely down to close to the consumer, and then you start talking functionally and everything, all of that. And all of this has become very, very important. And I understand that at the top is brand building, at the bottom it's sales, and all of that I understand. But because of this fragmentation, I think everybody is forced to, sort of mix up their messages in various ways, and that I think contributes to the best. But while saying that, I think many marketers uh, confuse what to say and when to say it. Many marketers, always want to introduce the functional into the brand and things like that. And of course, yeah, at some places it may be right. But I want to give a very simple sort of example, because brand and consumer is like a courtship, right? If you want, like, to approach a girl or a boy, you don't really say that, oh, you don't start with, I'm a great athlete, or here, look, at my abs and stuff like that. Like, even if that's the great differentiation you have, right? You just want to give a charming little hi uh, to the uh, at the start of your this, and you want to look and feel a certain way. You want to come, you want to have a personality before you have a differentiation. So if brands practice uh, all of this down in the consumer journey, from like the absolute beginning or the hello hi of the courtship, to finally getting down into like, why choose me, I am this particular kind of person and stuff like that, then I feel it's easier to decide what to say, when to say it. And of course, consistency of personality, consistency of voice, if you are able to keep from right from the top up to the bottom, then you do manage in some way to do it. But you spend a lot of money, uh, you know there is a lot of confusion in the journey, that oh, now that she has agreed to come to me, and meet me in the cafe, what exactly should I say to her? Should I keep my, uh, be general in who I am, or actually, expose at this time that I'm very intelligent, or that I have this difference in me as opposed to other people that she's choosing? So these are difficult conversations and difficult decisions, and I think people get confused, and it's only normal. But to your question, the main thing is fragmentation, Sandeep.
Right, just connected to the same thought, you think with the coming in of digital, the task has become easier or more difficult for brands? Because, you're talking about the consumer funnel and, top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel and whatever. In your experience and your experience of having built some fabulous brands, do you think the task today, considering that 70% of market share in all media spends is digital and everybody is buying digital, using digital, living on digital, has the task become easier or has it become more difficult?
It's become very difficult, Sandeep. Extremely difficult, in my opinion. There's so many complications. There's so many things, so many choices to make. Every damn little thing in your regarding your brand or your business, and now you have to make that active choice. That, oh, I'm doing this for business. Oh, I'm doing this for the brand. Everything is extremely complex, extremely complicated. There was a time when we could just put the brand on TV and you're fine, right? You bajao that brand on TV and you're done for. But uh, at the same time, what I feel today is that even media choices, that whether you're going D2C or whether you're taking the big sort of 3 or 4 channel platforms, even those, within those platforms also, there's so much to choose and so complicated. How will you arrive at the media choices that are needed to absolutely optimize your brand impact or frequency? So it's digital is has made things very, very, very complicated, according to me.
Yeah, yeah. You and I come from a generation where a nice, full page or even a front page Solos and Times of India would solve all your problems.
Amazing.
But since Jyoti comes from a media background, maybe she can enlighten us more, especially on how, to build brand credibility which goes beyond just visibility, especially in the context of utilities or essential services or most of the product actually that go into what construction world, sort of revolves around, because
Yeah.
uh, the actual user or the consumer of those products most times is very, very different from the guy who specifies and the guy who uses. I mean, I'm getting my house renovated, and despite my lifelong loyalty to Narrowlac, because I started my career from there, and Ram is still a client of mine. I mean, I've had these massive arguments with my own painter. He looks me in the eye and he says, "आप देख लो अगर कल को कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई तो मुझे मालूम नहीं." So in that context, Jyoti, what does somebody sitting, in the creative business or the communication business do for answering that question?
So, digital overall has definitely changed the way we are having to look at all our messaging and connecting with consumers, right? And today, uh, like you were saying, when you one TV ad or one front page solus, it was a push messaging from the brand to the consumer, and it was more often than not, it would solve a lot of your problems in the market for you. But in today's scenario, where not only are consumers, there's a lot of pull brand building. So what consumers are saying in the social spaces and in the digital spaces is what also greatly impacts your brand reputation, sometimes even more than what you yourself as a brand say. And then to top it all, we today have AI. So I am not even talking to a real consumer. I am probably having a conversation with a bot, or a bot is collecting information about me from various sources in the cyberspace and distilling it and pushing it out to the consumer. And the consumer is not really maybe doing too much of a deep dive to even check whether that information is collected accurately or not. Yeah, so in that kind of a space, there is it almost seems like there is very little in our control as brand builders in what consumers read or understand or imbibe of us. But that is the reality of how the ecosystem is evolving. Within this, then, what is it that we do which still ensures that we stay connected to our consumers in a meaningful way, in an authentic way, is where I think our biggest challenges today lie. And one or two things which I've learned in the few years that I've been here is that, especially for a utility brand where you're not seen, what you say is important, but what you don't say, and when you don't say, probably becomes as important. However, in cases of crisis, the way that you handle the crisis, the way that you come across to the consumer is where your brand really starts to build much deeper layers and nuances of whether you are connecting with them in a real way or in a way that is just sort of meant to do a tick box of I have connected with you. I think this also brings it to a very connected point of how transparent are we in our interactions with consumers in a world where we don't really control too much. Do we, honesty, authenticity, these are words that we all understand, and we've been building our brands on those over the years. But in today's world, are the principles of transparency equally valid? And it seems like the right thing to say yes, but I think somewhere curation of the responses, curation of the way in which to talk to consumers, and how authentic and how transparent we behave with them, who are the new set of influencers. So earlier, the Times of India front page was your influencer, and we all used to say the medium is the message. But today, it is actually not only real influencers, but also AI inspired influencers, avatars, agentic, chatbot, all of them that are really influencing the way the consumer looks at you. This is the reality of the world that we are all operating in today.
Jyoti is saying, do the influencers in the paint industry still remain the contractor and the painter, or are there new influencers who come in? I mean, is there somebody with 1.5 million, followers now more potent than the painter who's actually come to paint my wall?
Yeah, I think Amer put the media challenge in a very nice manner, and I'll take reference to that. Today storytelling has become increasingly complex because of the media choices. Because the media has got fragmented, the messaging also has got fragmented. Traditional media, of course, helps you reach out at scale, helps you build a certain amount of awareness. But and of course, authentic storytelling helps you consider a brand. But when it comes to final decision making in a paint business, I think dealers and influencers do have sway, and increasingly consumers are becoming aware. Digital medium also has a response mechanism to it. There's a closed loop, right, as compared to a traditional medium. So consumers do ask questions, and we do. There is a culture in India where people have started believing influencers more than the brands themselves. So what influencers talk about the brand has a huge bearing on people at least having a positive preference to the brand. I'm not saying usage, but at least a positive inclination or preference to the brand. And that's why influencers are picking up, across industries. Look at D2C brands. I mean, paint industry is one example, but D2C brands, influencers, personal products, something you apply on your face, influencers are becoming important, and what they say makes sense. So even in paints, we see people, we see architects, we see painters, we see aesthetic designers who have a point of view on colors, on brands, and they are increasingly getting adopted. So I think the digital economy is impacting, or the digital currency is impacting each brand, irrespective of the industry they are in the same manner. The speed of adoption would be different, but it is impacting each one of them. And of course, that's seen in the traditional media consumption patterns also. They are reducing and giving way to digital. So that's obvious. That's happened in all countries, and India is no exception to it.
While we all get influenced by the huge creator economy that's obviously becoming very big in India also, when it really comes down to the crunch and things that we do not understand very well. See, paint is still okay, I may not understand the technicality of the print, but I can at least see the color. And end of the day, as a consumer, that's what I want to see, right? But more technical products, more technical detailing within technical products is something where I think we still come down to, of course, we do our research and whatever online, but eventually if the person that I'm trusting to do that job for me says, no, madam, this is better, chances are I will listen to
Yeah.
it.
I have a point actually, Jyoti, about influencers, and I'm not sure about this because I'm not so close to influencer marketing, but I feel that even influencers are losing somewhat credibility right at the top of consumer evolution there. So if you have, products that are let's say like what you said, a little bit more technical or more passion sort of products and things like that. Imagine a motorcycle, somebody is going crazy wanting to buy a particular type of motorcycle. You can say that an influencer can influence that choice very much, but at the top of that audience level, there is a person who's sitting, who's saying, I probably know more than this influencer about this particular product, about this particular bike. And those guys have started looking down at many of the influencers. Second, uh, because the movement and uh, you know momentum of influencers has become so large that people matlab aankh band karke are taking on influencers. Many of the influencers actually don't belong in the influencer game. They are mini celebrities of some kind of something, but they are pushing a certain project, or sorry, a certain product or a certain brand. And I think that is also turning off a kind of consumer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So while there's this huge rush towards influencers, there is also a negative sort of push from
Calibration
consumers.
happening.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So there's a question that somebody has posted which says, has digital media made you trust brands more or question them more?
So I don't think any of us know the
Oh,
correct
yeah.
answer to that. But how I deal with it is that while I am a marketer, while I'm an advertising person, while I know how media works, but I am also a consumer, right? And I try to put that lens and say, has digital media made me trust brands more or less? I think while it's an interesting question, I think the underlying thing for all of us, and maybe Amer and Ram might want to add to it, is that the question is not whether media has made us trust brands more or less. The question is, are brands talking to me in a way that I want to be talked to, irrespective of what medium they're using to talk to me? And if I'm talking to you in that manner, then I think the principles of trust don't change. If I look at much younger audiences, my daughter is much younger, almost Gen Alpha, Gen Z cusp. Okay, the way they live their lives in the digital medium, to them, this is not even a question. Their lives are digital. That is the way they've known the world, right? So for them, it does not matter. That is the way they communicate with each other, with the world around them. They build their perceptions, they build their truths, they build their trust, and they do believe it. They think what they see, they understand somewhere that everything they see in the digital world is probably not true. They understand there is fakeness, they understand all of that. They're very smart. But to them, the question of the brand, the medium creating or not creating trust is a non-question. I mean, I don't know what Ram and Amer think about this, but that's my view.
Yeah.
Having a very young girl at home and seeing how she interacts with brands and
I'd like to
influencers
know
also.
Amer's point of view.
You know, the big deal, I think, the big difference is that there's a two-way channel now. Digital is a two-way channel. we had, we originated in a world of one way. This where the brand was talking, everybody else was listening. We never got to hear a point of view from other people like us, unless they're very close to us. Are, did you use Lux? Fantastic, nice fragrance and all at a one-to-one level. But today, if Lux fragrance gets it wrong, you will get to hear from a million people, and that causes such a huge confusion, because every damn thing everybody wants to talk about today. There is not like normal audience, forget these influencers and this that. Normal audience doesn't want to keep quiet. They just want to keep talking. Whatever experience they have in their life, they want to communicate it to the whole world. And so it's all cacophony in digital today. You can't just stand there. You're standing, in a sort of crossroads, and there are millions of people talking out there. So how will you sort of judge who's saying right, who's saying wrong? Yes, younger people are better equipped because they live in that space, but it's a very, very high decibel and very confusing sort of space to be. So yes, bigger challenges for brands, right? And how to make your brand voice come out with that, authenticity, and with that, sometimes, with friendliness, sometimes with quirk, sometimes with absolute audacity. You can choose, but you have to sort of have that voice that connects and rises above this cacophony to be
So
heard.
the digital voice is quite vital, because you need to either use it to project, or you need it to cut the noise so you can be heard above a lot of it.
Yeah, but very difficult.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Amer, was it better and easier when media was simpler, or is it that we just are romancing the past?
Sandeep, I want to go back to the time, two things. One, uh, get media back into agencies. You know why?
Yeah.
Okay, because that was the sort of moat, in our lives, right? But we gave it away, so it's okay. Chalo, that is, from our point of view, from practitioners' point of view. But uh, media itself, uh, the value of repetition, the value of getting very, like, looking at that Nirma ad and saying, oh my God, what is this girl, why is she dancing like this? Why can't they do more nicer, this whatever, to 5 weeks later, starting to sing the Nirma jingle, 2 years later, having a bond with the Nirma jingle, 3 years later, looking forward to the next. Oh, what is Nirma going to do with that jingle? And now, 20 years later, oh my God, what beautiful times those were. So yes, I mean, media being simple uh, and easier is certainly, some, like, I wish we could go back to that time.
Amer, the question is, I was a young, owner of a startup the other day, and he had a very simple formula. He says, I've got 200 crores to spend on IPL. Even if he produces damn all nothing, with 200 crores, he can dominate any form of communication. So, given that, do you think you can just build admiration with money?
No, not at all, Sandeep. I mean, see,
Jyoti?
one sec, I want to just say that.
Yeah, please. Sorry, I'm
See,
sorry I
this thing,
interrupted.
no, this thing, Sandeep, that जो
Hmm.
दिखता है वो बिकता है, I vehemently disagree with it.
Hmm.
Absolutely vehemently. Okay? डालो, मेरे मेरे सामने 50 ब्रांड आते हैं, 100 ब्रांड आते हैं, मैं नहीं लेता. और आई एम श्योर मेरे जैसे बहुत हजारों लाखों लोग हैं. Who will buy every damn thing that is just, hitting you? No. Be sweet to me, be nice to me, be funny to me, be emotional with me, connect with me. Yes, okay. Okay, now I start to talk to you. Now I start to listen to you. Okay, now I want to find out more about you. Not at all. Never. I don't agree money can buy you,
No, I
a
just said the guy said he's just got 400 crores in funding, and 200 out of that he's going to keep for IPL. So there's obviously some formula there which maybe older folks like you and I are missing out on.
Tell him that he has come to the right place if he has come to you, first of all, that you will
No,
guide
no, he
him in
hasn't
the.
come to me. I just met the guy. But I was
Okay.
quite intrigued and quite, amused by the fact that he thought by burning 200, crores on IPL, he could buy consumer admiration and consumer loyalty. Yeah. So that's why I'm asking. So, Jyoti, do you think that is a valid formula, especially from the hat you used to wear as a media planner and a media buyer?
So Sandeep, the money will probably buy him some visibility and awareness. Whether it will buy him admiration and loyalty will really depend on what he says, what he uses that money to say, right? And is money the only and easy way to buy admiration? Not at all. I don't think we admire brands because they spend money. We admire brands when they talk to us in a way that connects with our lives, connects with our needs, um, plays a role in my life in making my life better or making me feel better about myself. If you're not ticking any of those boxes, you can go spend the money. The agencies will be very happy. The media will be very happy. The consumer will
No,
also be
agencies are
happy.
not
They'll just
happy.
go
They
and do
make
what
no
they
money
want
in
to
any
do,
case.
mostly not with your brand.
Ram, what is your opinion?
Yeah, and very similar to what Amer and Jyoti mentioned. See, spending media money will make you famous. It will give you salience. It will make you famous. But
Spending.
yeah, spending media money will make you famous. But being famous doesn't essentially mean you're being admired. So admiration gets built over what you say consistently
So
over a
does
period
it
of
matter
time.
if you sell and you are not admired? It doesn't matter, yeah, does it?
Yeah. No, no. What I want to say is brand admiration is a marathon sprint. It is not. It is a marathon run, not a 100-meter sprint. So, this gentleman probably has to spend 200 crores over a period of time because 200 crores is relative, right? And as Jyoti mentioned, the right storytelling and authentic storytelling will help him build a brand over a period of time. It really is not the money. Money is needed, but it's not the only vitamin, is my point.
Chalo, on that very happy note, let's start, at least going back to the basic question, which was about brand quotient and brand admiration. And we discussed a lot of stuff in terms of brand awareness and how to build it and how that is becoming a big problem. So, since we have you in any case here, Ram, that can tell me something now that you are a 100 years plus brand. And when you are faced with a very aggressive competitor, and you have, especially in your category, we're now seeing a lot of action with Axo Nobel becoming part of, JSW, and a lot many more brands having been born in the last few years. As an established player in the market, uh, how do you ensure that you carry, consumer loyalty?
I think time is an advantage, and the best advantage time has is it helps you define trust because trust gets developed over a period of time, and time also helps you establish your root strengths. So as a 105-year young brand, as I would say, we have our root strengths which are firmly dependent on product quality, product engineering, the Japanese technology, which are very undifferentiated. And needless to say, some distinctive brand assets that has been developed by champions over the years. Now that really helps, rather than saying differentiation in today's world, differentiation really doesn't exist as per me. It helps us, build distinctiveness. The minor aspects that tell you that you are different from someone else does come in handy. And yes, the salience game impacts you. Competition could outspend you. They could put in a lot of money. But if your story is credible and you're clear about your root strengths, consumers keep coming back to you, and new consumers also find reasons to buy you.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. Jyoti, for you, the whole story about Tata equals trust. has been kind of the foundation on which a lot of Tata brands have been built. And do you think again that Tata's built trust over 140 years or whatever? For newer brands to come in, the word trust itself is a bit of an anomaly. I mean, I buy a pizza today, I don't like the taste. Where is the issue of the trust? Yeah, I mean, just bought it. He was running a promotion and the name seemed familiar. But given your experience of now working for a Tata company for the last 5 years or more, where do you think is the role of communication in building trust?
I think for legacy companies like ours, Sandeep, the role of communication actually becomes even more critical because one is to the people who understand you and your brand from over a period of time, ensuring that those connotations of trust continue to sustain is one part of our task. The other part is all of these newer generation consumers who are now coming into contact with the brand and uh, becoming influential, becoming potential prospects, to them, how do you still keep that trust alive? What are the new layers that you build onto your brand so that they continue to see the brand in the manner that you want them to see? Yeah, their definition or their parameter of trust, of admiration may be a little different from what it was maybe 15, 20 years back, their parents' generation or so on. And that cultural context of what constitutes admiration and what parameters they want to tick to admire or trust may be a little different, but the role of communication in building those layers which now appeal to them is, I think, even more important, even more difficult, like Amer was saying, but really critical to ensuring that if we've lived for 100 plus years as a brand, how do we continue to live for the next 100 years with that same trust with this very new generation of consumers in a world which I think is changing faster than any of us can comprehend today.
So, Amir, given what Jyoti is saying, I'd like to ask you that by using Amitabh Bachchan or using Sachin Tendulkar or using MS Dhoni, are we enhancing their trust, or is their presence actually just a tool to recall and recognition?
I think it's the latter today. It used to be to build trust and credibility earlier. Today, the landscape has completely changed. And we are just like brands are just trying to buy little bit of eyeball, from somewhere. This credibility and everything used to happen at a time when there wasn't so much of digital confusion and digital over sort of availability of media and stuff like that. Today, it's just like Amitabh Bachchan, I use Sachin, I'll use, at least somebody will glance towards me, at least they will have one. Yes, it will buy you a little bit of that, but you know that can't be your go-to thing, right? It can't be that, oh, I've bought this and now I'm done for. It is the same thing as thinking that, I've got an influencer and now I can do anything that influencer can say. No, it can't be like that. So we used to say in the old days that you put an idea first into your work, and then you choose somebody who can take that idea further. So even if Amitabh Bachchan buys you a little bit of a glance, get him to say something a little different, get him to do something a little different. And I feel that, brands are depending too much on the personality of the celebs. I mean, they have to come out of their, comfortable celeb space and do something a little bit more like the brand rather than like themselves. So if they keep doing the same thing, like if Amitabh Bachchan will, stay and behave in the same way that he does in every damn ad, almost, give or take 19 20 like that, how will your brand get differentiated? You make him do things that your brand believes in, or make him talk the walk of your brand. So that will help your brand. Okay, he buys you that little glance, and then your brand or your personality or your differentiation actually makes you remember that, or take note of that. Oh, Mr. Bachchan is behaving in a different way. He's saying something which is more like, what I believe in, and what I believe this brand to be about. Okay, yes. So I think that all of these guys need to uh, be made to talk a little bit more of the distinctiveness that the brand wants, or the language of the brand.
That's very valid, and I think it's time to throw open the forum to those
Sure.
who have questions.
Yes.
And the first one that I have got in the chat box is that with the onset of AI, what do you think each of your brand strategies would be 10 years down the line? Yes, Jyoti, will you go first?
Sure. So, see, fundamentally, the way consumers are now discovering about us, discovering new brands, discovering existing brands, is being completely changed with generative AI, and with we no longer even say SEO anymore when we're talking about whether our brand is searchable or not. We talk about AEO and GEO, which is all AI-led search. And therefore, I think we will all have to really relook at how is it that we are talking to our brands, what content are we putting out there, what stories are we putting out there, how are they interpreting those stories. 10 years down the line, I think all of us, and maybe 5, because the way the speed at which things are changing, the 10 may be just 5. We will have to prepare for 3 kinds of the three layers almost of how we are talking to our consumers. One is directly to them as people. That pie will keep shrinking.
Okay.
It will be experiential. It will become more better agents, because most and the third will be general agents, AI-led models, and so on, who will be curating a lot of things on behalf of a large mass of people. So I think those are the 3 really layers where we all need to be thinking of what our brand strategies are going to be. And if we don't start thinking now, chances are 5 years down the line, we will be too way behind to then catch up.
Jyoti, which is where I have another question from Rakesh Rao, who's asking that in technical or commoditized sectors, what truly influences choice? Is it the brand, is it price, or is it recommendation?
So it is actually not one of these ever. Usually it is at least 2, and in many cases it is all 3, because we will consider a brand which at least we are familiar with, we have heard of. Even if somebody comes and gives me a brand at a really low price, but we've never heard of it, chances are I will not go for it. And this happens a lot more in technical or commoditized sectors, because the stakes are a little higher. Our own understanding of the brand and the category is lower, and hence the role that a brand plays in becoming the first mode, the first level of trust and familiarity and comfort in my mind is so much higher than it is in brands where stakes are maybe lower, something goes wrong, I can change it, or so on. Price is always important, because normally technical and commodity brands tend to be a little on the higher side on price. Of course, there are the lower price ones, but there, it plays out differently. And recommendation is always and has always been and will continue to be very, very important in these sectors, because when there is less product differentiation, then the layers that we put onto it, from the way we build the brand, the way other people talk about it, the way the consumer himself or herself experiences the brand, and somebody I know and trust tells me, yes, this brand, yes, I had a good experience, or this is better than something else that I used or considered. That is how actually the final brand choice gets made. If you were to break it down into parts, the technical and commodity brands are actually far more complex than a lot of the so-called simpler FMCG brands where we make a choice almost every day or every week, and on Blinkit sometimes 10 times a day.
And thank you very much for that. We don't seem to have any more questions in the
Oh,
chat box unless
Sandeep,
they pop up.
there were a couple of questions earlier when you logged out. I'll just read one of them. There are two more.
Yeah, why did
What,
you read it? It's not there. I can't see it.
Hanji, what influences decisions more today? Advertising, influencers, or peers?
I think Amer would be the best guy to answer that.
I want to say something actually a little different from what this question, but it's related to the question. I think a lot of young consumers today are seeing through the brand. So they're not just looking at the brand, they're not looking at the first level of interaction of the brand that they have, but actually because of the exposure and because of all different kind of media, they can see deep into the brand, right? So if there is a owner of the brand, then they know what that owner of the brand has is doing at that point in their life, right? So there is this sort of some brand, and the brand owner has gone to a certain opening of certain thing, and happen to sort of be standing next to somebody or having said something. All of these things are becoming so transparent to consumers, is that they are aligning themselves with all this, right? Certain person is talking to certain person in a nice way. Certain person is not talking to another person in a nice way. Certain person has these political beliefs or not having these political beliefs. Certain person was asked a question and did not pick a side. These these things are becoming so important to today's consumers, and I see that with young people today, that they are this has become an additional factor in choosing brands, right? There is a war happening somewhere, and there is one brand belongs to a certain sort of country. Don't like what that country is doing in the war. I don't want that brand. Such things are becoming such an active part of young people's conversation, and it's going to increase more and more. It's not going to die, this thing. So people are becoming more conscious of their choices, and they're widening the sort of scope of the reasons that they pick or don't pick a brand. And
So,
one more last thing I want to say, just like a little thing. I feel that we talk about consumer awareness and all. I feel that consumer annoyance has become a very big deal, and I see that marketers are so excited still by this digital choices that they have, and so much I have to do. I can reach the consumer like this also, I can do that also. They get so excited that they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And what is happening to people is that, brands are coming across, certain brands at least, are coming across like predators. They are like waiting in the corner, one around the corner in the digital landscape somewhere to pounce on you like that. And that causes huge amount of annoyance. And this again is becoming something that young consumers are reacting to. So some of these things, I'm using this forum to just say that, I mean, if you are a young marketer today, make conscious choices of where you want to appear, how you want to appear, and be aware of how consumer will react to your to your actions.
Falguni, are there more questions that you have in the box?
there is one come now, which says,
Yeah.
can CSR activities help to elevate and uplift the brand amongst the young generation, which look at glamour as well as roots?
I think Ram should talk of anything that is glamour. Yeah.
Uh, See, every brand, irrespective of which industry it has been in, requires a strong purpose. Now, like anything in marketing, convergence of intent has to be very important. So if you're doing a CSR activity, of course, there is value in it because you're uplifting someone and adding value to the society. But it has to be more authentic, and if it really has to make brand value, else it has PR value. You can put it on social media, talk about it, and people will feel good about it, but it will not really build brand aspiration. So if you find the sweet spot between what your brand stands for and what you can deliver to the society, CSR is just a mode, then really there is a lot of value to be unlocked because that's authentic storytelling, and people will like to hear about it. And if there is space for that brand in their lives, not essential all brands have space for all people in everyone's lives, then definitely it will find its way or find preference in their life. So yeah, CSR, if you ask me one line, yes, CSR does have value, but there has to be a convergence of purpose.
Sandeep, we've got 5 minutes more.
Why don't we get each one of our participants to, uh, 1 minute conclusion, please, of what was you said. We can start with Amer. 1 minute, please, of concluding whatever you have said and what you've heard.
I found the conversation of being an invisible brand or being a brand that is not directly interacting with consumers, at a physical level. I found that very, very interesting, and I learned something new from there. And you know, it, it is more difficult. It is more difficult to be in the background of somebody's life. Both Tata Power and the paint category Nerolac. It's it's easy to forget that the brand is there. The brand has sort of helping you on a daily basis, or has decorated your house and built so many memories into it because of its role in your thing. But it is so easy to forget. So what should what a brand needs to do uh, to really stay relevant or be loved, and I think Ram said that 6 years later, you have to pop back into that person's head, and you have to build the whole journey again to be able to be chosen. I found that very, very interesting and a great challenge, and I'm going to think about it and probably use it with some of the brands that we have.
That's a nice thought. I mean, I encountered that problem for the first time exactly 32 years ago when I was charged with the responsibility of launching Airtel.
uh,
Now, you actually use your phone every day, but what you see is the iPhone or you see the Nokia or whatever.
yeah.
The Airtel facility only comes into your mind when it doesn't work, like it didn't work today. So, invisible brands that actually work much harder for you are much more difficult to sell, which
it
is a
it
good
was
idea. Jyoti, Haji? Yes,
No,
you said
I
something?
was saying, Sandeep, that thankfully, the category itself was so fresh and innovative at that time that it was really, like I also was involved in, the identity and the communication of idea. I remember,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
yes, and what happened during that time. At least the category had such attraction at that time. But over a period of time, that category has also become today like electricity or paint or something. It's just gone into the background of our life.
Yeah, Jyoti, before we wind down, last thoughts?
I think what Amit said about brand and consumer being a courtship relationship uh, is something so true. I think we've all known it, but you articulated it so crisply, and I think that's something which, if we all can take away from here, that it is a courtship. It is therefore to be built over a period of time, because, like you said, Sandeep, I have 200 crores. Can I build brand admiration? No, you can't build it unless you are looking at it like a longer relationship, which starts with courtship and then goes on to become admiration and then unconditional love, which then also holds with you if things sometimes don't work well for you as a brand. Because I don't think we forgive brands
Yeah, but
that
Jyoti,
we don't.
courtship itself is changing today. You know,
Oh,
you
yes,
actually hook up on digital and you also part on digital. So the
definitely.
nature of courtship itself has changed quite
Correct.
significantly.
The nature is changed, but the fact that it is a courtship is not changed, Sandeep. So I think that thought
I
is
hope
something
so.
to
I hope so.
really.
At least in our generation, that itself doesn't change.
I agree. I agree. And that's
Yeah.
what I think I mean, encapsulating it so crisply and succinctly in this manner is what I'm taking away from it, from today's conversation, really.
Thank you. And Ram, you are the last and our most valued speaker. What is your view on what we discussed and anything that you are taking back from this conversation today?
Yeah, so I think this conversation also talks about how difficult it is to build brand today in today's age. Media becoming increasingly fragmented puts a lot of stress on the brands to be more responsible. Ultimately, the responsibility is up to the brands to actually handhold the consumer. While media is getting complex, I think brands will have to figure out a way around it because you can't hold the consumer responsible for it. The landscape's changing and we have to evolve with it. That's one. I think second thing is I think the unequivocal resonance we had on will money buy you brand admiration. I think there was no two way on it. We knew, and I think Dr. Goyal, you can go back to your client and say you need a couple of 200 crores every year, and to make the brand, to build the brand. Building brand takes more time than building a factory, and it is not a 100-meter sprint. The third one that I liked, it was one of those questions which said that with the AI world, what is your 10-year roadmap? I was actually thinking we'll have to write our marketing playbooks at least 4 times over in 10 years. The way, the outside world is evolving, the ecosystem is evolving. What we did 3 years ago is not relevant today. So I'm sure what we are doing now is not going to be relevant after 10 years. It is going to be a digital ecosystem. It is going to be an artificial world, and making brand feel authentic, seem authentic, communicate authentically is going to be a extremely big challenge and also a responsibility that marketeers will have to think through. It's a responsibility on all of us. Those are the 3 points.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you very much. And I think if you can, maybe Falguni, you need to have your last word on this before we wind up.
I will. Thank you, Sandeep. I actually have two thoughts which I'm going to put to you. So it's almost going to be like a part two of this brand conversation, which we can probably take offline. One is that, 65% of Indians are under 35 years of age. Does it need to change the whole line of conversations that we're having, and the fact that we're having so much of these conversations digitally with them by default, because that's what they're most savvy with? Um, I thought that that's one area that we haven't explored in this conversation, whether there is any special attention to be made to the language from the point of view of the youth. Does it matter? One. And the second thing is that, I think one of the things that stood out for me was that, being there, showing up, the consistency of the brand is actually the strongest factor for the brand. One of the things I think I've taken away from this conversation, and everything else is an add-on. Everything else that we're building on is after you've been there, after you've shown up no matter what. Everything else is an add-on to the brand. So I've actually asked one question and given you one takeaway. So probably I'm going to come back to you all and we'll have one more conversation question offline, which we can then add to the story. This is going to be part of the cover story of Construction World in the July edition. And we'll have the winner of our brand survey uh, awarded in July, on July 8th at Geo World Center, where we're holding the awards. We'll keep you in the loop. Before that, we'll be having a YouTube film on this. I'll share the link with you as soon as the link is out in a couple of days or so. I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much. Sandeep, you have any comments on my comment before I
Oh
thank
no, I
everyone?
think you said it all. My only, last contribution is that I went to management school 4 decades ago, and Philip Kotler used to be the Bible. I think
Yeah.
it's time for a new Bible to be written. It's not only brand Bibles.
Yeah.
All the youngsters who are coming into the, the marketing world, I think they need to be taught a completely new system and process. So
That's true.
product, price, place, promotion are now they now belong to a different era. I mean, the new words that I catch every day from, I mean, the word cohort, for example, was not in my vocabulary. I mean, this
Yeah.
funnel business was never in my vocabulary. It's all come into our conversations, and the world is changing far too quickly for us to take anything for granted. But it's been a nice conversation. Thank you all, and have a fabulous weekend ahead. Bye
Thank
bye,
you.
and good luck. Bye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, each
Thank
one
you.
of you. Much appreciate your
Bye.
time,
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
and we will be in
Thank
touch.
you.